Effiong. Valentine Shime, MD Inc. Digital Nigeria Limited. Is he around? Represented. Okay. Yemi Oshodi, MD Information Connectivity Solutions Limited, ICSL.
We can have the presentation up, please. About the power of digital, and we've seen that, you know, in the world where we are in now, without digital backing up, you know, your operation or your system or your country drive, it is very difficult for you to achieve anything. So we see that digital just goes beyond just access to the internet. It has pervaded every operation, every business operation, every system, every application. So we've seen that digital is key, and for every government organization or business enterprise out there, it has to be driven by digital. Now, if we look at the role of telecoms infrastructure in e-government deployment, we can see that there are key enablers that telecom infrastructure has provided. One of this is broadband connectivity, because broadband connectivity drives data usage. Another one is data localization and storage. You know, with IT infrastructure and data center, as people consume data, those data has to be stored somewhere. It has to be secured, it has to be reliable, it has to be accessible, and that is part of the functions that telecom infrastructure provides. Another one is digital literacy and e-learning tools. We're saying that no matter, your population itself is not a key strength in terms of how well you are developed. Like we heard that Nigeria is the 5th largest population in the world, and it's going to be the 3rd largest by 2050. But this has not translated in any form. This has not translated in any form to economic growth or development for the citizenry. So we understand that population in itself will not deliver value. What delivers value is how well people can use the digital skills and the opportunities available, the resources, and how they can mine those opportunities. And we have seen that digital policies and digital skills will enable them to achieve that. We're also seeing that telecom also helps in terms of delivering power and enabling environments. Artificial intelligence, and what drives that basically is some of the networks that is provided by the telecom infrastructure. Now, also talking about how Nigeria ranks, we've seen that, you know, in terms of the key indices that have been measured globally, we've seen that Nigeria ranks poorly. If you look at broadband penetration, it's currently set at 41%. If you look at Open Government Data Index, which talks about how open and how accessible information is, which basically drives access to opportunities in the states, Nigeria currently scores 0.3%. In terms of telecoms infrastructure, we score 0.35. In terms of e-participation index, we are ranked 114 in 119 countries. And all this data shows that we need to address. All this information shows us that we need to address some of the challenges we are seeing. Some of these bottlenecks in terms of challenges we have seen is in terms of infrastructure and the policies. And things need to be put in place to ensure that we can deliver on that. Now, in terms of the benefits of telecom infrastructure to e-government deployment, we can see that it will help in terms of improved efficiency, increased transparency, accountability of government functions. It will ensure convenient and faster access to government services. Now, what has been done? So we want to set the pace in terms of how a telecom company can help grow, can help provide telecom infrastructure to drive e-governance deployment. So you can see in terms of broadband connectivity that we have provided access to across the metro states. We also provided We also provide an internet exchange system. We provide a data center that drives data access and data connectivity within the ecosystem. So I will allow the speaker to take us through his presentation as well. I just wanted to set the tone, which was why I provided some of this information as a platform. So, sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. No. Good afternoon. Seems like in afternoons, a program that started this morning, and just rushing in. So I would like to say thank you to the organizers for especially my good friend, Mr. Larry Ajayi. Okay, so what I'm being asked to present today is positioning telecom infrastructure for e-governance deployment. Yeah, there is a bit of some outline there. Let's go on. E-governance, I mean, to this audience, especially we've been participating at this conference for a while now. I think, okay, if we've been participating here for a while, trying to define e-governance, I mean, we could define it in many ways, but I've just taken a very simple way of looking at it, and I've looked at it like is the application of information technology to the processes of government function in a smart, moral, I mean, that becomes something in quotes, accountable, responsive, and transparent governance. Transparency, we are in the age of transparency right here. So, yes. Okay, essentially, what will be the role of connectivity? Because we are in the connectivity section, the role of connectivity is making sure those benefits that I highlighted earlier comes on through providing works management, all the different functions that we know that government does some 5 years ago can actually be brought in now in a digitized form. Including, I mean, this has been going on for a while. A lot of institutions and applications have actually developed how to digitize many of the things that we do, be it public procurement, be it even inventory management. That is not a common thing that is done in government. But again, we are aware of IPC's establishment and payroll management, and so on and so forth. These are many of the places where we already know that going so in the old ages. That's what I'm going to call what we do before we have the e-governance model. So we know that is fraught with a lot of opaqueness, and government as it is now, if they transit to the e-governance model, we'll have a lot more transparency. I'm aware there are a lot of tax collectors here. I can still see a number of them, but maybe it's the IT side of them that I know, but they've been doing a very good job. That is one thing I must actually commend. There's been a lot of, I mean, starting from the Lagos end, the national too. Many of the processes that we do in the traditional way had been changed. And of course, it then brings in more revenue to the government. So it brings in more revenue when you digitize your operation, with holding tax debts easily reconcilable, and it means more, because when traffic flows better, what we see is that there can be more volume, as can be witnessed by the different organizations. Next. Okay, so like I said, it brings about improved transparency, it reduces corruption, both not necessarily just within government, the corporate sectors also engages in that, and that's why I use the example of the revenue services. So in revenue, what we need now, more than ever, is a growing revenue. We want each and everybody to be able to pay their taxes. And of course, it brings about higher productivity. Budgeting also gets better because when we digitize, what we see is that those records stay there, and we can, with time, in no time, actually plot a trend analysis. So this actually increases efficiency. Next. My colleague, the chair of the panel from May1 actually mentions how we rank. Even, I mean, the whole of Africa generally, we generally our index is actually very poor in terms of adoption of e-governance. So we can see some records here, apart from South Africa. But when we look at the western side of where we are, what we see is that we are actually in the lower 25th percentile. So essentially in Nigeria, it is as if the country is just stepping out on the starting block. Yes, what we can do is to encourage ourselves and say we are going to get there, but there is no way we can get there without having a robust connectivity infrastructure. Next. So we need to make sure to really to position e-governance properly. Then we need to position the telecom infrastructure properly, because the connectivity that we talked about, for this to actually get onto the masses, is not just the function within the government circle, is also to make sure that it reaches the masses. I could borrow a bit from the India experience. I do have some Indian friends, and what they felt is like, oh, whatever they have about 5 years ago is just sufficing in our own economy. If that is so, well, maybe we are not too far behind. But what I've been seeing is that it may even take us longer than that as it is. Of course, we need a telecom infrastructure that is quite robust, provides high quality service. Anything that we need to give to the people, we need to make sure it's highly reliable, it is scalable, and of course, anything that we call infrastructure do fail. We need good support system in a timely manner. Of course, once we have these infrastructures in place, then digitizing the operation becomes a lot easier. And of course, that will also bring about a lot of innovation. The Nigerian way that we talk about, we need to be able to bring newer. We need to show it in the digital world. And of course, it's not just about Facebook, LinkedIn. This time is to run the business of government. Next. So, and this is where my own company actually come to play. We've been around for a while. We've been preparing for this day. we've been preparing for this era. So our infrastructure is quite robust and available for the different government institutions to use. We have operation across the country in all the states capital, wherein all the things that I just mentioned earlier, we provide all that. Good support system, spread, is scalable, is flexible, and this is like the national backbone. Hello? Okay, next. Okay, it's a highly reliable engineered system that has several layers. It's not just the physical layer. We actually have engineered it in a fail-safe to provide fail-safe operation to different government services. Next. Okay. This is, yes, we talk about the infrastructure, like I mentioned, then we need to lay out a lot of applications on it. This same thing actually happens even in the connectivity world. When we have the physical infrastructure, then up to a place where we can then put each of the different services in their layer 3 application. Okay, so we do have some edge nets, and one of the things we tried doing at the beginning was that we aligned with international standard organizations. We happen to be an ISO 9001 certified organization. This is 2013, about 8 years ago, and we've since been recertified about 3 different times. We're the first organization to have the ITSMS. ITSMS is the IT Service Management Standardization, otherwise known as ISO 20001. We've won several awards consistently since we had this certification. So, next. We offer different connectivity services, including long distance, digitally circuit. We are mainly a wireless organization, and of course, mode of connectivity in Nigeria, especially to the masses, is largely wireless. But of course, we also have a number of robust infrastructure, and some of these infrastructures is actually will move every data and will provide the base connectivity. Next.
Sorry, sir. Sorry, Mr. Mojeed. Round up in 30 seconds.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay, so we've also made a lot of investments in the wireless. In wireless broadband infrastructure, like I mentioned, we know the very popular influx that we invested in, and of course, this is with a view of making sure this service is available to everyone that needs government services. Our engineer services to the different cities is actually in multiple of routes, and that provides fail-safe operation. Next. Next. I'm almost done. So we do have a lot of services that will actually make this possible, so that because for IT services, one of the things we want is reliability, for it to be adapted by the government functioning offices and for it to be relied on by the masses, you actually need it to be reliable to provide those support services like I mentioned. So I actually think I'm almost done. So we do, in rounding up, we have a number of government offices that rely on our services today. And of course, these are the very serious ones, like we all know. So we are not new to that. And I'm sure many of the panelists
done an excellent job in terms of thank you so much. So we'd just like to give the second panel presenter 5 minutes. Okay, so we're done. All right. So we'd like, at this point, we'd like to take questions from the audience.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. I'll try and make this quick. I know we are running short of time. But I'd like to bring a different perspective into all that we've been discussing today. We've talked about e-governance, the merits. We've talked about infrastructure, the service providers. At the end of that, we also have the users that are engaged through the communication service providers using channels. But the one area I'd like to highlight is actually the bulk communication service providers. The simple way of looking at this is communication. Effective communication is quality information being passed across and being heard. The panel before me and even the speakers on this panel mentioned a lot about adoption. Why is adoption poor? Are the right things not being communicated? Is quality not being communicated? Or just end users not hearing? So how do you assure effective communication? You have to speak the language or target audience. So using that analogy back to the topic here, positioning IT and telecommunication infrastructure for e-government. I think a critical part of that mix is your bulk communication service providers. They speak the language of the users. E-users, they are not just on the electronic or they are not just online. They are somewhere online. Can you find them? Do you speak the language? How engaging is your communication to them? I work for a company called Infobip. We specialize in that niche of communication. Bulk e-communication for organizations trying to reach their end users anywhere in the world and anytime. A little bit more about the language of the e-user. My son is on the internet. Where is he? He's on YouTube watching some videos. My daughter is on WhatsApp 25 hours out of 24 hours in a day. If you can identify these locations e-users domicile, the chances are that you meet them there and speak to them, they will hear you. As opposed to living where they are and going where you think they should be. I need to get an email address, I need to put it, web address, put it in, go to the government website, read all the pages, do some searches to find what I need. How about you who needs to talk to me? Finding out where I am, speaking to me in a language that I easily understand. Web users have a short lifespan. They are browsing so much information and they're trying to find out what they are. So you need to get to me and my mind in 8 seconds. So this is a key segment and a specialty that I think introduced into the mix and given priority or recognition can actually be the game changer. We know a lot is going on e-governance. We know that the Nigerian peculiarity, we know the successes achieved by telecom service providers in terms of spread, cover, reach. How about we tap into that using those who are specialized in speaking to e-users and languages? A typical example is we talk about security, knowing who is on the net, what they are doing. I'm sure some of you saw a recent news clip where a criminal was apprehended and he was giving insights on how he perpetrates SIM fraud. He mentioned one or two institutions that are most vulnerable. There are organizations like my organization who specialize in solving SIM swap related frauds. We are having a hard time getting ears to listen. There are so many organizations like ours who have a lot more to offer. I think what is lacking is just the recognition that these organizations are an integral part of the value chain. It's easy to see the government, it's easy to see the telecommunication service providers, it's easy to see the users, but very easy to ignore the specialists in translating your policies to effective adoption. That is just something I would like to bring to the forefront. In terms of some of the challenges, I think we mentioned about a viable and effective database. I think we should look inwards. What we have achieved or done well in Nigeria, let's tap into that. If we, for example, my opinion is that if we tapped into what the telecom service providers have achieved, then a national identity and registration process may have been easier, may have been faster. Rather than discard and start again, let's utilize the spread of the telco or the data service providers, their expertise, their subscriber base. Let's build on that, try and achieve the adoption that we have mentioned here severally as a pain point.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. So that we can give others the opportunity to speak. So we'll move to the next person, to the next panel. But it is key from what Ollie has said. It is key that there has to be that collaboration between both the private and public sector in terms of leveraging on the infrastructure the telecom organizations are building to drive e-government or e-governance initiatives and activities. So.
Okay, thank you very much. So, good afternoon. I'm observing all protocols. My name is Funke Atanda from Engr Digital Nigeria, responsible for product development and management, and representing our managing director, Mr. Valentine Chile. And of course, when we got this topic, positioning telecoms infrastructure for e-government, a number of things come to mind. So many words resonate, where the now, the previous, the past. We look at enhancements, transformation, improvement. You see, e-government brings so many things. We want to see transformation, we want to see improvements, we want to see efficiencies. But then, let's look at e-government really. Mr. Omoniyi gave a simple definition: employing ICT to government to bring efficiencies so that government can serve citizens and businesses in an improved and better way. That's simple. ICT, government leveraging on ICT. But let's look at the challenges today. So I'll try to look from the perspective of identifying the challenges and the likely solutions. So when we look at government, I know we all have 1,001 things that government are not doing right. Yes, of course, but we're going to focus on the professional part of things, telecoms, we see that it's manual-based. We saw FRS adopting technology, we're happy, things are getting automated, but most of these processes are still manual. Many processes are manual, papers being transferred, files carried from one office to the other. We also see time to complete tasks, from memos going down from the chief to director, IoT to officer, before going back for approval. Time is gone. We look at user adoption. Is the workforce ready in government to adopt ICT tools? Have they been equipped effectively? That's a challenge. And then the infrastructure, the telecoms infrastructure, have they been upgraded? And then the support and maintenance of this infrastructure. Is government able to maintain and support this infrastructure if they acquire it? But then, so many things, so many challenges. But let's look at the solutions that we can provide here. And my colleagues here, we're all service providers. We're from Digital Nigeria, we're cloud and digital service solutions provider. So I know the whole team here is capable of providing solutions to meet all of these challenges. But let's look at the focus, connectivity. We've heard robust connectivity, but what exactly is robust connectivity? I will define it as intelligent connectivity. Connectivity now is different from what we had 10 years ago. In those days of DSL, lease lines and all of that. Now we have intelligent networks. How can we use intelligent connectivity to solve the challenges that government has today? So let me take, and when I say intelligent connectivity, optimizing wide area connections for business applications. So gone are the days of just saying we give government internet access and the availability is 99%. What is government able to do with that access? How robust it is? Are they able to, do we define service level agreements for government just only on bandwidth? Do we give them the ability to prioritize their applications? Do we allow them to determine what they want to do? What the bandwidth is used for? Is it used for their critical applications, or is it used for an employee who is sitting down and browsing and going on YouTube? We need to empower government to be able to use connectivity intelligently, and then we will see the efficiencies that we want to see. Now, security is key. When we hear of ICT, adoption of ICT, people in government want to freak, oh, I hope we won't be hacked. I hope we won't be attacked. How sure are our files secure? And all of that. We need to assure them that we have enough tools, anti-spam, antivirus, malware detection, intrusion detection, or even intrusion prevention. We need to be able to showcase all of these things to government so that they see that, yes, when we adopt ICT, when we're truly e-government, then we're not vulnerable at all. So many things. We need to also look at the opportunity, digital transformation. That's the buzzword now. We talk about digitalization, adoption, but it's a very, very broad topic. Digital transformation includes automation. How do we help government to automate? How do we help them to transform from the manual-based system into paperless? Develop cost-based solutions, software solutions for them that takes care of their memos. Papers don't need to fly again. So I make bold to say that on this table we have enough brains that can transform the government that we have today into the full e-government that we want to see. Cloud adoption is there. There's so many things. I can go on and on and on, but the opportunities are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we'll move to the next person.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Engineer Bassey, Uket, Assistant Director in the NCC. During the keynote address, has actually outlined several of what NCC has done to enhance e-governance and the impact already in Nigeria. But this session is actually supposed to address connectivity. Connectivity implies, in Nigeria today, we have over 50 terabytes of broadband capacity sitting at the seasides. How are we supposed to make this accessible to the extremes, every nook and cranny of this nation to drive e-governance? That is the essence of this session. And I would want to say that the Nigerian Communications Commission, as a telecom regulator, plays the role of facilitating the deployment of infrastructure to ensure that what we have, that we have not even scratched the utilization, is driven down into the hinterlands to ensure that the Nigerian people, the government at all levels, can access this huge capacity for the running of e-governance. E-governance is all about having access to broadband infrastructure. I'm talking of effective broadband. And to do this, the Commission have just summarized the two-pronged approach that the Commission has been pushing and facilitating, providing enabling environment for foreign direct investments. I want to look at the fiscal infrastructure. In the fiscal infrastructure, we know about the Nigerian National Broadband Policy that is in place currently. We know about the National Digital Economy Program and Strategy. The NCC, the Commission, both programs have set targets as of today. The broadband fiscal infrastructure is at about 54,000 kilometers, but we're looking at by 2025 that we should be at about 120,000 kilometers of physical fiber connectivity nationwide. And the policy is driving, pushing at also ensuring that the 774 local governments in Nigeria are connected by this 2025. And to ensure this, the Commission has licensed, we split the whole country into 7 regions and licensed 7 infrastructure companies for the deployment of broadband infrastructure to drive this. As at the moment, we are at about 45% broadband penetration, but we are targeting, we are hoping before 2025, we should be going above 50%. Now, on the wireless also, on the wireless front also, we know one of the efforts has been one of the challenges has always been the problem of local governments allowing telcos to deploy their infrastructure, and we've had a whole lot of challenges in that front, where we are hoping that with the coming of 5G, that this wireless aspect of the broadband will be highly enhanced. The federal government has approved the deployment of 5G, and spectrum has been made available. Now we also have the satellite services. Now there is also a move by the Commission to ensure that satellite services now are properly regulated and enhanced. And I want to also appeal, because one of the impediments of the fixed infrastructure for years has been the main beneficiaries, which are the states and local governments. Number one, they come with right-of-way charges that hamper the investors from deploying services that would have improved your own operations, thereby hindering your own growth. Now, we also have the issue of the destruction of the fixed infrastructure. Government will see you travel along the Nigerian roads, you see somebody just come in the name of construction, excavating fiber infrastructure that has been laid, disrupting services everywhere. So the telcos turn around to start bearing double costs of replacing infrastructure. We have a whole lot that we would have loved to also do, but I know there are many government agencies here. I want to also advise government or borrow government free consultancy that government should note we are going to either eradicating or drastically cutting down on right-of-way charges. Thank you because of that.
Thank you very much. So, thank you very much once again. My name is Segun. Okay, my name is Segun from IpNX. To digital transformation. So we have a lot of investment that's been made in software application process involved digital transformation, digitalization to achieve digital transformation. But let's look at it. To central to all these things is actually connectivity. Otherwise, you're just talking about data. So, but how is connectivity, how vital is connectivity to digital transformation? So even the process of gathering information requires connectivity. To gather information effectively, you require connectivity. Then even to store information, to make the best use of stored information, you require connectivity, because you need to transmit that information from one place to the other. But more importantly, is the area where value is actually going to be gotten with connectivity. So all the different applications, investment that they made, how does it get to the end users? How do they make the best value for that? And then one key example that I can easily put out here is this. I see the source that's been made on the name. That's the national education process. We talked earlier on about governments to business. I talked about governments to consumers. But let's add up all the three together. So you have E to B to C. And that has effectively been presented with name. You have a lot of centers that's actually been opened up. And that has actually accelerated the progress that's been made because government gave the chance to businesses to open up. And those businesses actually gave the consumers, which are the citizens, to complete their registration. So that is an example of how we have seen digital transformation being reflected across the entire, what's called, spectrum of where the value chain will actually be from. But again, to look at it this way, connectivity is crucial. How do I mean by that? Let's look at the different MDAs in government establishments. We have different departments, we have different ministries that still work and still carry data, either maybe through flash drives and things like that. But with that, we're not still getting the best value from digital transformation until all those MDAs are interconnected, in which case they will form what they call like an intranet within a closed group. And gradually, you can even see government to government, in which case you can form what they call an extranet, in which they can actually speak themselves. But look at it this way. Government of a nation can also interface with government of another nation. I mean, you see things like Interpol. They connect to each other to see how they can solve problems. But this is the essence of connectivity. So, to look at the second part of the topic for today, we are talking about the challenges. Now, we still have a lot of challenges when it comes to connectivity. Good enough, I think the submarine cable carriers have done a lot for the nation. We've got quite a lot of cables, but of course, it's been highly underutilized. But how do we get this capacity to the end users? So when you talk about metro infrastructure, how much of metro infrastructure do we have within the cities? How much of metro infrastructure do we have connecting the cities together? And how much of that do we have when it comes to last mile to make sure the end user actually gain access to that? So obviously, to get the best value for digital transformation, the government of the federation at all levels, federal, state, and even local, must all come together to support telcos in deploying and investing in infrastructure to support our dream and aspiration on digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Yemi, the CEO of ICSL, which is Information Connectivity Solutions Limited. So as you can see, connectivity is the main part of our business. That's why we have it in our name. Essentially, the way I look at it is I like to keep things as simple as possible. The reason we're up here as infrastructure players and connectivity players is to bring government services to the people. And we need to do that in the most cost-effective manner possible. It doesn't matter how much capacity is sitting on the coast. If you can't get it up to Zaria, Taraba State, Nasarawa State, if the connectivity, if the capacity is sitting at the coast, then we're wasting our time. The other thing you need to look at is 40% of our population, over 40% of our population is young people. Young people are early adopters. Government is going to have a problem if they don't use technology to get to the people. I have a lot of workers, and when young people come into my office, I still have a regular analog telephone sitting on my desk. I actually had an 18-year-old once ask me, well, what is that on your desk? They have no idea what this thing is. Most of these kids now are running around with mobile phones that do everything. I saw the other day that Facebook introduced a pair of glasses that are connected. Well, if there's no connectivity infrastructure, those things are not going to work in Nigeria. The technology is useless to you if you're sitting in this room and it doesn't work. The only reason you have technology is to make your life easy. If you're sitting in here and you can't access your messages, you can't access your phone, you can't access any data, all the technology in the world is not going to help you. Our job is to make sure that that connectivity gets to the people in as cost-effective a manner as possible. Government is looking for data. The people are looking for connectivity. Our job is to put the two together. You're going to need healthcare, water, lighting, auto license, TV license, you name it. Government is trying to provide it to the people, but it's not going to happen without infrastructure and connectivity. This is going to be the mantra going forward. Right? It actually already is. If you cannot get to the people, you're not going to get their taxes. You can't have somebody living in Badagry and you tell him to come to Alausa to pay 2,000 naira worth of taxes. The transportation from Badagry to Alausa and back to Badagry is 5,000. He's not going to bother to come to Alausa to pay that 2,000. So you have to take the services to that customer. It's the same thing when you look at customer to customer, which we will call peer-to-peer. Or you could even look at it as machine to machine in some cases. But when you're looking at customer to customer, now you have young people, maybe beaded handbags, necklaces, shoes. My daughter ordered a pair of shoes from the US. She ordered it in Nigeria. I knew nothing about it. This person just showed up in my office and dropped off a pair of shoes that I'm now going to have to take to the United States. This is technology at its best. These people have never met, they don't know each other, they somehow communicated over the internet. Obviously, Nigerian fashion, content, music, films, are in high demand all over the place. If we are not able to harness all this content and provide it to the end user, as I said, in a cost-effective manner, we're all wasting our time. Government, as has been said in many occasions here, local governments, state governments, federal government, we're all going to need to work together to make sure that we create a network where services are delivered to the consumer as inexpensive as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like you to give a round of applause again to the members of the panel. They did a good justice.
Answer as it affects. First question I have is, we said we had 50 terabytes of broadband capacity. What have we done to enlighten the public on this? And what does it take to be able to do two things? One, maybe from this I can decide to create employment opportunity or start a business by subscribing and making the service available to others. What is the rule and regulations around it? The second question is, how do you plan to prioritize government to have, first line access, then others later, in order to make our services faster with our relevant stakeholders? Then the second one is, a gentleman said something that was very important as a mother about children access, someone on YouTube, someone on WhatsApp. Who is regulating what our kids are doing in Nigeria? Is it NCC? Is there a private sector doing that, providing that service, ensuring that our kids are not going to the wrong place at the wrong time? That's the second question. The third question is, do we have anything in place, business idea now, of citizens reporting citizens for tax purposes or for connectivity purposes? And then have businesses approach even tax authorities to say, I live in Surulere and there's no internet. I'll provide internet for your taxpayers and we negotiate. I'm not speaking as a tax authority now, I'm just bringing out a suggestion. Has somebody sat there and thought about that and sat on the table and negotiated with taxpayers to say, I'm gonna bring this many people to the tax net, what is in it for me? I'm going to give this many people connectivity to use your software and pay their taxes, what is in it for me? And the last one is, when you talk about satellite service, are you talking about satellite service in regards to being able to have access to any part of Nigeria, be it rural or inner city? Or you're talking about satellite service in terms of space, since that's what's in now, people flying to space for fun? Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to
answer from the list provided by
speaking of the capacity sitting on the business, that was why I outlined some of the things, the policies that the Commission is driving currently. Now, we talked about licensing, dividing the whole country into 7 regions and licensing 7 infrastructure companies whose duties are just to drive to their deployment of infrastructure, broadband infrastructure, physical infrastructure to 774 local governments. That is the target, to make sure that we are able to move what we have at the coast to the hinterland. Now, we're also talking about satellite services, where we are talking about using satellite services for broadband deployments. We're using satellites. Now, currently we know that we have a lot of challenges because of the physical infrastructure and limitations. So the satellite services will also be used to deploy broadband services. So that enhances wireless broadband. Now, I talked about with time, we're going to see, it's already happening in other locations. We're going to be seeing high altitude platforms, which are mini satellites that are very cheap to deploy, and they are not limited by the issue of power and other evangelizations and all those. Those are coming upstream.
Thank you very much. Mr.
Thank you, Anja. Once again, my name is Yemi Oshodi. I'm Information Connectivity Solutions. We actually operate a satellite service. So I want to take 2 of your questions. The terabytes, the 50 terabytes. To the average consumer, it doesn't matter. If you have 50 terabytes sitting outside that door, and you are sitting inside here, you can't access it. It really doesn't do you anything. So, but to your question of satellites, I don't need that capacity that's sitting offshore if I have a satellite. So I can bring you service on the Nigeria-Chad border without reaching out to that capacity that's sitting on the coast. So I can take you, the only issue you're going to have is what we call latency, because it's obviously it's physics. The satellite sends a signal down to the remote. Or sorry, I should say the remote sends a signal up to the satellite, and then that remote is bounced back to another location in Nigeria And that's how you communicate with the remote. So if you're in, let's say, Ilorin, and you want to use the internet, the information goes from Ilorin to the satellite, and then down to the Earth station, which could be anywhere in Nigeria. It could be in Lagos, it could be in Ogun State, it could be anywhere. So that time frame could be 600 milliseconds, 700 milliseconds. Fiber obviously is instant. So obviously most people prefer fiber, but that's for people that have experienced it. If you are sitting in some village, in northern Nigeria and you've never experienced the internet, 600 milliseconds is not going to make a difference to you. So therefore, satellite technology could do a lot to improve our broadband connectivity. I hope that answers the question.
So you did mention something about concerns about children accessing information on the internet. So I'll put it this way: within the ecosystem of providing broadband services, you've got the content owners, right? And you've also got the users. In this case, let's just look at the children. Now, there are two key areas of responsibilities here. One that's very, very crucial is actually the parents. So one of my colleagues actually mentioned something about intelligence in providing connectivity. So at that particular level, there are some access control that can be given to the parents to monitor what children are doing at home and to filter and to create some access list for that.
Is it existing now?
Yeah, it is existing. You can always confirm from your providers.
Sorry, I know this. I want you to speak because people are listening to you globally, because it's a major issue.
It is existing now.
How do they do it? Just give us a sample.
It's just an interface, right? Before you access the net, there will be some questions that are going to be asked, right? So you will put some controls as the end user that, look, you can't access this particular site. You place those controls and you can create that first level of protection.
On the phone?
Not on the phone, I'm talking about the internet access now. Even on the phone, if you are using the phone to connect to the internet, as long as you are trying to get to the internet, that access control can actually be done.
By the parents?
By the parents, yes. On the other hand, I know content providers also try to do some things. Internet is quite open, so sometimes before you access the site, you are being asked some questions. What's your age? I mean, they do that. Of course, it depends on whatever information is given, but that's just like the first level attempt by the content providers to be sure that you are up to the age for which you can access that particular information. But I can also need my colleagues to also add a bit to that too. Thank you.
And called New Media and Information Security. Their job is to ensure that people are secure. The while they do a lot of work around cyber security, they've also identified the risk to children online. There's actually a 24-page guide on our website, which gives you guidance for carers and parents. Yeah, keeping children safe online, advice to parents and caregivers. It's 24-page guide. All the initiatives my colleague was talking about, various other things you can do as a parent, as a user, the workplace to keep your children online are continuing to apply. There are also various sensitization programs which we hold from time to time to engage with people who have actually young children, telling them latest tips, latest kind of things we need to watch out for, so that our awareness of how particular children shape online. A lot of work.
Ultimately, the ownership resides with parents to be sure you are on top of what your loans are accessing on the internet. With that said, there is a challenge I would like to highlight. One is from the perspective of where my organization operates from, and that is the multiple regulations that obtain in the space that we play. A typical example is we have to abide by the regulations of the NCC. We are also subjected to the regulations of CBN, subjected to the regulations of NDPR. A harmonization of regulations to come up with a single regulatory policy on now, just to round up, is access to data. I think my fellow panelists here have mentioned security concerns, but access to data, rural silos of data sitting with others will be key to the success of e-governance in the country. Just to put that out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We need to round up now, please, because we're going up for lunch now. There are 2 other sessions that are waiting, and we are bound by time. We need to leave here at a particular time. So, even though we have a lot, maybe what I will do is this. I think very, very important. It's important, and that is why questions keep coming. If they are not important, we would have been bored. But I assure you, we'll be here for the next 1 hour. There are a lot of questions I have here from people. They want me to ask, but sorry guys, we need to go back to the organizers for whatever we did. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, every member of the panel.